I'll call us to order. Good evening, everyone. Well, good evening. Welcome to the 20th meeting of the 142nd Council of the Corporation of the City of St. Thomas. My first duty is to ask, is there any disclosures of interest from any of the members? Seeing none. Madam Clerk.
Next order of business are the minutes. I have a motion that the minutes of the meeting held on June the 6th, 2022 be confirmed. Moved by Councillor Herbert, seconded by Councillor Wookie.
It's moved and seconded. Questions or comments? Seeing none. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried.
Next order of business, Your Worship, are presentations. This evening, the members will present civic honors to the following individuals: Tristan Coles, Aiden Coles, Darien Gordon, Jim Collins, Allison Pimlatt, and the St. Thomas Express Volleyball Club under 14 Iron Spikes.
If I can share with our guests here tonight and our guests at home, this is our first shot back at doing civic awards here at Council since COVID kind of stopped the process for a couple of years. The five groups or people you're going to see tonight were brought to us by family or friends or community members who filled in a form saying these people should be recognized as members, great members of our community. So these are the first five tonight. For you watching at home and others, please go onto our website under Civic Awards, and there's a form there for you to fill out if you'd like to recommend someone. And at least one meeting a month, Council will do exactly what we're about to do tonight. So, Madam Clerk, if you could read the first, and I'll come down to the floor.
Thank you, Your Worship. The first two individuals are Tristan and Aiden Coles, and this is for the Sport Individual, Provincial, and National. From a very early age, Tristan and Aiden have enjoyed running. They first found their speed playing recreational soccer in the community. As soon as they were old enough, they joined teams at their elementary school. They played soccer and competed in track and field and cross country. When Tristan was 9, he won gold in the 400 meters at the Thames Valley District School Board Track and Field Championships and earned his first trip to Provincial Championship in 2014. Aiden has also enjoyed many successes in his short career. However, he is sensitive to what it feels like to do your best and still not make the podium. That understanding is why he always encourages other athletes and supports their efforts. It is not unusual to see him at the finish line, congratulating his opponents as they end a race. Running for Tristan and Aiden has become an obsession. Everything became about training. Their garage was turned into a training facility, and as well as running for their high school, Tristan and Aiden joined the London Legion Track and Field Club, followed by the London Western Track and Field Club. That membership allows them to run with and learn from older, more experienced athletes, which is a valuable part of their regimen and path to successful outcomes. The pandemic did not deter Tristan and Aiden from training despite meets being brought to a halt. Once things began to open, Tristan returned to competition locally, provincially, and in the US. Tristan competed at the Boston University meet with a time ranking him 3rd for his age in Canada. Aiden's most recent track accomplishments include competing as a member of Team Canada at the Pan Am Cross Country Cup in Brazil with an 8th place finish and a gold for the under 20 team and a gold for the 4x800 under 20 team. Tristan and Aiden will be attending Iona College in New York this fall to further their education. We wish you the best of luck in your future endeavors.
Something in your introduction that really piqued my interest. You tied once in a cross-country race. Yeah. Did you plan that? Yeah. Was it, oh, I'll wait for you. Come on, pick it up?
No, yeah. We planned it.
Yeah, we planned it. Perfect. Excellent. Well, thank you. And thank you, whoever has put your names forward. We want to hear these types of stories in St. Thomas, but we sure want you to tell St. Thomas wherever you go to. Tell them that we love you too, and have fun at college this fall. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Your worship, the next presentation is to Jim Collins, and this is a special contribution. Jim came out of retirement in early 2020 after running several successful businesses to start Harvest Hands. Harvest Hands originally started at the Grace Hall on Balaclava Street. Jim began to source and rescue food to distribute to local food banks, missions, soup kitchens, and individual families all across southwestern Ontario and internationally. Jim has grown this completely nonprofit charity from nothing to distributing $3.5 million worth of food totally free to nearly 100 organizations across southwestern Ontario. Jim receives no pay and devotes 7 days a week to Harvest Hands, which is his passion. Devoid of greed or ego, Jim has continued through the challenges that have come his way to feed the many. Jim has continued tirelessly and with compassion to help anyone in need.
Jim, thank you so much for what you do, not just for our community, but for miles around. Hunger and food security is a really important piece, and I know it hits your heart. Please pass on to your other volunteers and the other workers that we love them too. But we wanted to say thank you to you from a St. Thomas point of view of what you've been able to do over the last number of years. Certificate saying how much we love you and a pin for you to wear to remember us from. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you very much.
Your worship, next is Darien Gordon, and this is for volunteer individual. Darien is an incredible young man who has a heart of gold. He is a grade 11 honor student who has a passion for volunteering. Darien has been volunteering for the past 5 years at various organizations, including Pets Friends for Life, Cultivate Market, and the Horton Farmers Market. From grades 9 to 11, Darien has volunteered almost 400 hours for our community. While volunteering at the Cultivate Market, Darien helped prepare the online orders and delivered them to customers waiting in their cars. He learned every customer's name and made customers feel safe during the pandemic. Darien also assisted with advertising for Market. In 2021, Darien volunteered at the Horton Farmers Market on Saturdays to guide people and talk to them about tourism. Darien is very passionate about his community and has volunteered his time to start petitions for things he wanted to change in this city. He has a bright future and the drive to change the world.
Darien and I know each other fairly well. On when it was Bring Your Son to Work Day, I picked Darien to come be the mayor for the day. And the city ran so much better that day. I didn't want to tell anybody how that happened. But the volunteer hours Darien has put in as a high school student, grade 11 now, right? 400 volunteer hours. Don't tell me you can't do it. There is lots of work out there that can be done from a volunteer in our community. Wanted to recognize Darien for being a great part of it.
Well, thank you so much.
Oh, you're very, very welcome.
Your worship, the next individual is Allison Pimlatt, and this is for a Youth STEM Award. Allison is the Parkside Collegiate Institute Thunderstamps Robotic Team Sponsorship and Scouting Captain. The Thunderstamps is a student-run team of about 30 students at Parkside Collegiate Institute who each year design and build a robot to participate for inspiration and recognition of science and technology, or FIRST, competitions. FIRST is a nonprofit organization that runs a robotics competition for high school students all around the world, preparing the next generation of engineers, scientists, CEOs, and accountants, marketers, and more. This year, the Parkside's Team 4907 finished 9th out of 77 teams in Ontario, allowing the Thunderstamps to compete at the World Championship in Texas this past April. While they did not win in the divisional semifinals, they were recognized with the Creativity Award for their innovating jumping robot. Robotics has united the school and connected a group of students with different goals, backgrounds, personalities, interests, and abilities. Together, they have achieved great things. The Thunder Stamps are dedicated to promoting education about the STEM field and to outreach events at elementary schools. Allison herself recently talked about her experiences on the team with excited kindergarten students at South Dorchester Public School, preparing the next generation of STEM enthusiasts. Overall, as sponsorship captain, Allison is responsible for promotion of the team in the larger community in order to raise their profile and secure funding from local donors to allow the team to build the robot and compete. As scouting captain, Allison leads her teammates in a technical evaluation of competing teams using QR codes and spreadsheets to track their strengths and weaknesses to provide strategic direction during each match. As an outgoing, confident young woman, Allison is an exemplary role model for STEM in the community and a representative of St. Thomas that our city can be proud of.
STEM in our youth, science, technology, engineering, and math is such an important thing. But for St. Thomas to be leading the way with things like the Thunder Stamps and the other competitions and such you've been at, way to go.
Thank
You
you.
bring pride to St. Thomas, and we thank you for it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Your worship, next we have the St. Thomas Express Iron Spikes Under 14 Volleyball Team Sport Provincial. In April, the St. Thomas Express Iron Spikes Under 14 Volleyball team won a silver medal at the Ontario Championships. The season started out slowly, but in the end, the team rallied to become provincial silver medalists. The girls not only worked hard, but they had so much fun. Members of the winning team are Abigail Barton, Michaela Findley, Deanna Lale, Hannah Slatt, Jenny Van Dunhoven, Kaylee Baker, Lucy Hayes, Lily Nelson, Lillian DeVries, Bryn McLeod, with head coach Laura Reed and assistant coach Adam Barton. Congratulations on a great season.
Thank you so much. First of all, I can tell by your faces you have fun doing what you do. But I also hear some of you were late getting back even today from a school field trip. So thank you for hurrying back and being here for us. We have a Civic Award pin for each of you, and for those that aren't here too. Please tell us how many you need. You get the rest. Yeah. Can you juggle those? Well, I can. No. Congratulations. The representation of St. Thomas in places other than in St. Thomas is an incredible thing, and we look for it in St. Thomas Pride. So thank you so much for doing what you've done to put St. Thomas on the map in volleyball. But also thank you for coming here tonight to be recognized. Here, you can carry this one. Thank you. Well, to those at home and to those here, the faces of pride in this room were quite evident tonight, and I thank all of the members. We're going to get better at this too, as we get more recommendations from our community of people we can recognize. On behalf of council, who I really took the whole show tonight, and we will make sure that the next time you all get to do one of those, and we'll have more fun recognizing the people from St. Thomas. We're trying to do it at the first meeting of every month from the council point of view. And if it ends up being more than that, we'll do it every meeting if we have to, if we've got that many to recognize. So thank you very much. Get your nominations in for the next round. Thanks. Madam Clerk, you're next.
Thank you, Your Worship. Council will now resolve itself into committee of the whole to deal with the following business. First committee this evening is Strategic Direction and Development. The first item, actually 2 notices from the Site Plan Control Committee of public meetings to take place on June the 22nd at 10 a.m. via Zoom. The first one relates to a proposal to add 2 portable classrooms at 84 Park Avenue. 84 Park Avenue is St. Anne's Catholic School. And the second notice is regarding a proposal for a 4-story, 17-unit multi-residential building at 244 to 248 Talbot Street.
A question from Councillor Peters?
Thanks, Your Worship. Yeah, maybe at some point, whether it's with this council or the new council, we need to meet with the new MPP and the school board. I was at St. Anne's School recently, and the number of portables that are already on site and now adding more, we need a commitment from the provincial government to deal with this inappropriate way for students to be learning. And so I just think it's something we should put on a future agenda.
Well, thank you, Councillor Peters, and we will do so. I've met recently with the chair of the school board and our 2 trustees. And after this election, I think we best make sure we meet with the new trustees or the same trustees if that's the case. And I like the idea of bringing our new member of provincial parliament into that role too, because they have to work so much together. So that is a great thing we can do for the future. Next item, clerk.
Your Worship, if there's no further items from the members, we'll now move into community engagement and services. First item relates to Canada-wide early learning and childcare plan. I have a motion that report SCSS 0522 relating to the Canada-wide early learning and childcare plan be received for information, and that a copy of the amended transfer payment agreement that includes this additional funding be received for information. Moved by Councillor Baldwin-Sands, seconded by Councillor Burgess.
Questions or comments on the report? Councillor Herbert.
Thank you, Worship. Thank you, Worship. This report was very informative for me, and I'm sure Heather's all over it. There's a lot of information in there to read about what's going on. It's just mind-boggling, all the stuff that you guys have to do over there and stay on top of it, and the funding. And one of my questions is, the funding a one-time funding? Is that is something that you have to reapply every year, or it just comes? Anyway, that was my only question for you then. Thank you.
Thank you for that question.
Teresa, please give us a bit of summary of what we have here and answer Councillor Herbert's question.
So this is not one-time funding. This is an initiative taken on by the provincial government and the federal government together. And this is going to be in place for the duration. That's our goal. Like what's happening in Quebec, this has been going on for many, many years. And it's our hope that it's going to stay for many, many years to come. So it's a long process. If you saw the way that the rates for families are coming down, it's not happening in one day. It's going to happen over several years, but it's going to get down to that average of $10 per day for families. And it'll take some time to get there, but it's going to stay for that as long as the government supports it. And we hope that it will.
Councillor Baldwin-Sands.
Thank you. I had 2 questions, but now I have 3.
Okay.
Because you talked about how the prices is going to come down,
Mhm.
but there is the other piece as well in your report
Mhm.
that talks about the increase of salaries of those working in the field. Could you tell us a little bit about that? And then I have 2 other quick questions.
So the wage enhancement grant is still going to stay, and there is that little piece of the $1 per year. We know for sure that that's going to happen for the next few years, but beyond that, we're still not certain. But there is the government is recognizing that wages for early childhood educators, registered early childhood educators, is not acceptable. So they are working on that. Again, the slow process, and we hope it'll continue to grow once we get to that rate where they've indicated.
Question 2.
Question 2. Thank you. How does this benefit workers who are looking for affordable daycare, who work in, for example, healthcare sectors, providing care for others, the retail sector, the service sector, which are traditionally female roles,
Mhm.
and they are also the caregivers at home? How will this benefit them? And then I'll ask my last question.
So there's two parts to that question. I think the first thing to recognize is that bringing the fees down for families is a huge benefit. Families are paying a lot of money now for childcare. If we look at it, I kind of did an example, if we have a childcare program that is charging $40 a day, all the fees in Ontario have been frozen as of March 27th, I believe. All the fees have been frozen, and retroactive to April 1st, they'll go down 25%. So if their family was paying $40, they will now be only paying $30. And by the end of 2022, it'll go down to $15. And, by the time 2025 hits, it'll be down to that average of $10 a day. So there will be a cost savings there. The other piece of this program is that the government has committed to 86,000 more spaces. So we will be working in partnership with the government to try to create more spaces so that families like those in retail and in all sectors will have access to childcare. The challenges right now is the spaces that we have are the spaces that we have. So we can't expand until we start to build. That'll take time. And right now we have no spaces available. All our spaces are filled. As children kind of move out of the childcare program and new ones come in, until we build more spaces like our St. Catherine Street childcare, that's when we will see more families accessing the program, accessing the system. But until we get those spaces, that's how we'll see families seeing the lower prices, but the lower costs, but also seeing spaces appearing in the system.
Question 3.
Thank you very much.
No
And the
problem.
last question is pretty much you've been around it, but more specifically, when someone is making between 18 to
Mhm.
21, $22 an hour, their average income per year is between $30 and $35,000 per annum. How much you talked about how much potential savings there is for families, but if you can put it in a ballpark figure, how much families are going to save by having this initiative?
Every single family who is accessing childcare will see the savings, even those families who are in low income. It's important to remember that fee subsidy program still is in place. So families that are in that low income bracket, they will still be accessing the program, and and their fees can go below the $10. So we have lots of families that pay nothing for childcare, that pay zero. Their parent fee is zero, and they will still be able to access that. It's not going to affect those families. In creating a limit of 10, they can still go below that. So families that need fee subsidy will continue to access fee subsidy, and we'll still have funds to cover that.
Thank you very much. Thank you so very much for those
welcome.
responses.
Thank you for the questions.
Councillor Clark.
Thank you. Through you to Teresa. Teresa, I was wondering if there's anything in here that will act as an incentive for private money to invest more, or do you think it will be more like early on centers that will expand their seats?
So early on centers don't offer childcare. They are a different kind of pot of funding, and we are going to continue to provide those free programs to families. We are in the process with the city, with the Children's Services Department, for creating that application for new providers to come into the community. We are 100% open to looking at the opportunity of providing going into purchase of service agreements with either for-profit or not-for-profit programs. We haven't seen that uptake yet, but our application, we hope, is going to go live by the end of the month. So we'll have to wait and see, but we definitely are open to having lots of childcare programs come in and supporting them. We want to expand the number of spaces that we have in the community. And this particular plan supports both nonprofit and for-profit centers in doing that.
Further questions or comments? Seeing none, thank you, Teresa. What a great report. We're happy to have it with us.
Thank you very much.
All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried.
Your worship, unless there are any further items from the members for this committee, we'll now move into infrastructure and civic operations. First item relates to bylaw 53/2022 relating to a lot maintenance amendment. I have a motion that report ES 4922 relating to bylaw 53-22 lot maintenance amendment be received for information, and further the council direct that a bylaw be prepared for its consideration to amend bylaw 53-22 as set out in report ES 4922. Moved by Councillor Rymal, seconded by Councillor Wookey.
Questions or comments from council? Councillor Peters.
Thanks very much, Your Worship. Justin, the Noxious Weeds Act, will that still, so weeds that are on that act and somebody says, well, I'm naturalizing my garden and I'm allowing these things in my garden, we would still be enforcing something like that or does that get waived?
Mr. Lawrence?
It would still apply. So anyone with noxious weeds that would not be allowed. The other one that comes up is like prickly bushes that are adjacent to sidewalks. So nothing's allowed to overhang or encroach onto sidewalks either, just for that reason.
The other, as far as the sidewalks are concerned, we've historically had some challenges with our snow plows and they dig up the grass along the edge of the sidewalk. Will we be enforcing? So let's say part of a naturalization is putting stones in and a rock garden. We're going to be ensuring that there's going to be enough of a setback from the sidewalks that a snowplow operator isn't going to put him or herself at risk of hitting a stone and causing possible injury to themselves.
Mr. Lawrence?
There's no specific dimension on a setback, but I think we'd have to take it on a case-by-case basis. So like, for example, now you could put a post or a rock adjacent to the sidewalk now. If it was dangerous, I guess we'd have to speak to the owner and try and get them to move it back a little bit. 6 inches is, the plow is actually a little bit narrower than the sidewalk, so it just fits. But I know what you're saying. We wouldn't want to have something right along the edge.
Councillor Herbert?
Thank you, Worship. Like most bylaws that we pass, I'm just curious, how will this bylaw be enforced? Is it by complaint driven? Or is it something the bylaw officer drives around, he sees this bad situation, does he do something with it, or is it complaint driven?
Mr. Lawrence?
It's both for sure. So it's complaint driven, but it's also, if we notice something, it could be noticed by staff or it could be noticed by the bylaw officer themselves if they're moving around and they see it. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Further questions or comments on the bylaw? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you, Justin.
Your worship, unless there are any further items from the members under infrastructure and civic operations, we'll now move into corporate governance and administration. First item relates to a municipal access agreement for Start.ca. I have a motion that report ES 3822 relating to the municipal access agreement with Start.ca be received for information. And further, the council direct that a bylaw be prepared authorizing the mayor and clerk to sign the municipal access agreement with multi-board communications known as Start.ca as outlined in report ES 3822. Moved by Councillor Wookie, seconded by Councillor Clark.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried.
Next item relates to the 2022 final property tax rates. I have a motion that report TR 0922 relating to the 2022 final property tax rates be received for information. Moved by Councillor Burgess, seconded by Councillor Wookie.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried.
Next item relates to request for support for nominations to the Board of Directors of AMO. I have a motion that report ADM 2022 relating to the request for support for nomination to the Board of Directors of AMO be received for information. And further, that City Council support the nomination of Sandra Daters-Bear, City Manager, as a candidate for Municipal Staff Board member vacancy on the 2022 to 2024 Board of Directors of the Association of Municipalities of Ontario. And further, that the council resolution be forwarded with Ms. Daters-Bear's application to the AMO board member recruitment process. Moved by Councillor Kohler, seconded by Councillor Baldwin-Sands.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried.
Next item relates to proposed delegation for the 2022 AMO conference. I have a motion that report ADM 2122 relating to the proposed delegations for the 22 AMO conference be received for information, and further that the proposed delegation requests for the 2022 Association of Municipalities of Ontario conference be approved for submission. Moved by Counselor Clark, seconded by Counselor Rymel.
Questions or comments? Counselor Rymel.
I just want to say that I really appreciate seeing these being noted out because in the past, we haven't had it sort of formally documented. So it's great as a heads up as to what the delegations will be. So I really appreciate seeing that report. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Rymel. Further questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried.
Your worship, unless there are any further items from the members for corporate governance and administration. At this time, council will reconvene into regular session. I have a motion that the recommendations, directions, and actions of council and committee of the whole, as recorded in the minutes of this date, be confirmed, ratified, and adopted. Moved by Counselor Wookey, seconded by Counselor Burgess.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
No reports of this evening, committees this evening, your worship. We'll now move into petitions and communications. First is a letter received from Elder Abuse Elgin requesting a proclamation. I have a motion that Council of the City of St. Thomas proclaim June the 15th, 2022 as World Elder Abuse Awareness Day in the City of St. Thomas. Moved by Counselor Peters, seconded by Counselor Wookey.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried.
Next is a letter received from the Nameless requesting a proclamation and flag raising. I have a motion that Council of the City of St. Thomas proclaim August the 31st, 2022 as International Overdose Awareness Day in the City of St. Thomas, and further that the International Overdose Awareness flag be flown at City Hall on August 31st, 2022. Moved by Counselor Baldwin Sands, seconded by Counselor Wookey.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Third item is a copy of a letter addressed to Premier Doug Ford from the Municipality of Chatham-Kent regarding funding of retirement home services. The next item is a copy of a letter, again addressed to Premier Doug Ford, and this is from the District Municipality of Muskoka, requesting an exemption to annual emergency exercises that are required by the province. Next is a copy of a letter addressed to Prime Minister Trudeau and to the Minister of Families, Children and Social Development from the town of Aurora regarding support for private members bill C-233, Keira's Law. Last item on the agenda is a letter received from Jerry Holden, Chair for the Columbus Club Summerfest, regarding the club Summerfest event to be held on June 25th at the St. Anne's Center. Your worship, unless there are any items from the members.
Sorry, Counselor Wookey.
Thank you, Worship. We're going to have an air show this weekend in the city and jets will start flying in. Is it this weekend or next weekend? Next weekend. And I just want to make sure that when we have recent immigrants, refugees coming from war-torn countries, you know, they get jets are what happens right before somebody gets attacked, not for people's enjoyment. And I'm hoping we can get out on our social media, Facebook, et cetera, this so that whether it's the people themselves or the families supporting them, sponsoring them, can inform them what is going on, just because we want to show some care and consideration for those folks. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Wookey. Counselor Clark.
Thank you, Worship. I was remiss last week in congratulating St. Anne's Parish for their 49th annual community festival. It was a great success, and you know, they hadn't been able to do it because of COVID for the last 2 years. So we look forward to next year being the 50th anniversary of that event, and hope that again they have great weather.
Further questions or comments or other new business, or Counselor Baldwin Sands?
Thank you. It's an item of new business if you would like it now rather than further down the agenda. Is that all right? Thank you. Would like to put a proposal out to my fellow councillors that the City of St. Thomas consider as the 2022 Truth and Reconciliation Project paint the crosswalk at Mondamin Street. Mondamin being an appropriate place for it because it's First Nations word for corn or maize, in an alternate orange and white stripe pattern. The timeframe for this project to be completed for September 2022. But I will also suggest that maybe we could send this as a report to staff to have them explore and ask for a report back.
The second doesn't require a first mover or seconder. Should we forward this as a report to staff? I'm seeing a lot of nods, so let's do that. But knowing our timeline, let's ask for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
If I could get one in here, the home show happened last weekend also, and I want to first of all thank almost everybody in the room for spending time with the mayor at the home show. I ask for forgiveness. We had a riot talking to new people from St. Thomas and old people from St. Thomas, and it was a really well-run event. It wasn't perhaps the huge event that it always is for the home builders, but it sure was the first one back, and it looked great. And I wanted to thank all of you for helping with it. Any other comments under new business or old business? Seeing none.
Your worship will now move into bylaws. I have a motion that leave be granted to bring in the bylaws, moved by Councillor Peters, seconded by Councillor Wookie.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried.
I have a motion by Councillor Peters, seconded by Councillor Wookie, that the bylaws be now read a first time, referred to council and committee of the whole, and read a second time.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried.
First bylaw, please.
First bylaw is a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the council meeting held on the 13th day of June, 2022.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any against? That's carried. Next bylaw, please.
Second bylaw is a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute and affix the seal of the corporation to a certain agreement between the city and 449974 Ontario Limited. This relates to a new hangar facility at the St. Thomas Municipal Airport.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried. Any opposed? No, it's carried.
Third bylaw is a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute and affix the seal of the corporation to a certain agreement between the city and 449974 Ontario Limited. This relates to an amendment to the existing office and hangar facility at the St. Thomas Municipal Airport.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Next bylaw, please.
Fourth bylaw is a bylaw to establish tax ratios for the year 2022.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Next bylaw.
Fifth bylaw is a bylaw to provide for the adoption of the estimates for municipal purposes for 2022, the adoption of tax rates for municipal business improvement area and education purposes for 2022, and further to provide for penalty and interest on payments of taxes in default.
Questions or comments? Councillor Peters.
Mr. Chair, I was remiss in not commenting when Dan had his report, but thank you for moving forward on the initiative of the online payments and things like that. That's going to be a really, so many people are going down that road nowadays. So I meant to comment when the report was in front of us, but thanks for your efforts on that.
Any further comments? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Next bylaw, please.
Sixth bylaw is a bylaw to amend bylaw 110-82, being the bylaw to provide rules governing the order and proceedings of the council of the city. This relates to the inclusion of an Indigenous land acknowledgement.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Next bylaw, please.
Seventh bylaw is a bylaw to amend bylaw 45-89, being a bylaw to revise and consolidate certain bylaws regulating traffic and the parking of motor vehicles. This relates to no parking zone on Eagle Street.
Recorded vote, please.
A recorded vote's been requested, Madam Clerk.
Starting with Councillor Herbert,
Green flashing, okay. No.
Councillor Kohler,
Yes.
Councillor Peters,
No.
Councillor Rymal,
Yes.
Councillor Wookie,
Yes.
Your Worship,
Yes,
Councillor Baldwin Sands,
Yes,
Councillor Burgess,
Yes.
Councillor Clark,
Yes.
in the positive. That would be passed, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Next bylaw, please.
The eighth bylaw is a bylaw to assume certain lands as part of the public highway known as First Avenue.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Next bylaw, please.
Ninth bylaw is a bylaw to assume certain lands as part of the public highway known as High Street.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Next bylaw, please.
The 10th bylaw is a bylaw to assume certain lands as part of the public highway known as Laura Avenue.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Next bylaw.
The 11th bylaw is a bylaw to assume certain lands as part of the public highway known as Hickory Lane.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Next bylaw, please.
12th and final bylaw is a bylaw to assume certain lands as part of the public highway known as Wellington Road.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. I rise and report the successful passing of 12 bylaws.
Your worship, I have a motion by Councillor Peters, seconded by Councillor Wookie, that the reported council and committee of the whole on the 12 bylaws be received and adopted. The same be read a third time, engrossed, signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed and numbered.
questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried.
Your worship, no public notice or notices of motion this evening. However, there is a need to move into closed session. I have a motion that this meeting be closed to deal with a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land and 2 labor relations matters. Moved by Councillor Clark, seconded by Councillor Burgess.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Let us know when we are in closed.